So in my prior video, I did Gojo versus Naruto, and a lot of people seem to enjoy it. With that, I also got some comments about a topic that's oftentimes regurgitated on YouTube and has popped up in my comment section from time to time, that being, can Madara beat Sukuna and vice versa? I've seen some people do the topic, however, I personally don't think they scaled either character charitably, and with that either winked them or downplayed them due to their tremendous amounts of copium and, well, wank. So with that being said, let me give you my thoughts and opinions on who I think wins between the two and end the debate for good. So like I said, let me teach you everything you need to know about Madara versus Sukuna. Now, first things first, before we truly do start off, we have been sponsored today by a site known as Anime Express. Anime Express sells a variety of anime merchandise that are top-notch in quality and are sold for a low price, such as my personal favorites being the swords and hoodies. Speaking of low price, by the way, if you do use my discount code of Tempest10, you will get 10% off any order you choose on me. With that being said, please be sure to check out Anime Express, and it would be truly appreciated. Thank you. To start off, I think the most important thing to consider and do with this specific topic is to distinguish the Sukuna that fought Gojo with Megumi's body and a hypothetical 20-finger full power Heian era Sukuna from 1,000 years ago. As not only do I think depending on the version this fight could drastically change, but I think both or either iterations are different and distinct enough, especially with their arsenals, that being the 10 Shadows Curse technique and the regular cleave and dismantle, which I'll get into, that it calls for us to make a distinction to see which arguments can be made and which can't. Now, when it comes to Sukuna, referring to either version here, unlike Gojo, who has a super broken ability that is able to divide the space between himself and you almost infinitely, AP and DC does indeed matter, as you are able to just like one-shot Sukuna as well as speed blitz him if you are fast or strong enough to. When it comes to AP, Sukuna should scale above, well, the entirety of the verse. However, it is a bit contentious on if Sukuna scales to Yuki's black hole technique, which is different from Yuki herself. Because while Kenjaku did scale and does scale above Yuki herself pretty much objectively, he even states he would have died if Tengen wasn't suppressing the technique and that the world would have been destroyed in tandem with himself. So I'll leave it up to your interpretation on if you think Sukuna scales to these planetary levels of power. However, it's kind of inconsistent with what the verse has provided for us thus far. For a little more consistency and congruence on where Sukuna would and should scale, at least linearly within the series, Sukuna should eclipse that of the disaster curses in almost every single category, as Jogo was able to create a mountain in his domain expansion against Gojo and would utterly get one-shotted and, well, dog-walked. Then in Sukuna's fight against Maharaga whilst at 15 fingers, he was able to literally nuke an entire city in the form of Shibuya. Finally, he should also scale above Dagon, who was literally shown to create not only an island, but the water surrounding the island as well. However, while Sukuna may lack an AP, at least fundamentally compared to someone like Madara, for example, he makes up for in his curse technique known as Cleave and Dismantle. Dismantle is the primary ability Sukuna uses in his curse technique that simply allows Sukuna to form and create invisible slashes. However, Cleave is the secondary attack that is a bit more complex to understand. Cleave is an ability that adjusts itself to the durability of its target in order to precisely cut the target itself, as seen in his fight against Maharaga. Now, before I say this, huge, very huge spoiler for the Jujutsukaisen manga. However, in Sukuna's fight against Gojo, Sukuna is implied to have developed a separate application of both Cleave and or Dismantle that targets the 3D space around Gojo, thus being able to nullify the effects of Gojo's infinity entirely. Some try to wank this and say well, Sukuna said he cut existence. However, with the context it's referring to, it's only talking about the space Gojo occupies, as if he cut existence. Why not just cut, the universe or something, which obviously just didn't happen. Sukuna also has his domain expansion known as Malevolent Shrine. What Malevolent Shrine does is kind of just spam slash attacks using both Cleave and Dismantle in tandem with each other. But for those concerned with speed, Sukuna, like Gojo, should scale above Kashimo and Hikari, in which both characters not only produce in reference to Kashimo, but are able to react to lightning in the case of Hikari. There's also some contentious fast and light scaling, once again including Kashimo, that being his electromagnetic waves, which I'll touch over briefly. In Kashimo's fight against the Fallen One Sukuna, he would attain a new form that is quote-unquote beyond all human constraints and would fire a blast that is electromagnetic in nature. However, firstly, electromagnetic waves don't necessarily move at light speed, at least on Earth, but very close to it, meaning any feat of dodging or avoiding it would be fast and light, right? Well, not exactly. Some debunks I've heard, which are plausible, is simply that Sukuna could have just aimed dodged Kashima before the blast was even fired, sort of like moving out of the light on fire before a bullet is fired. However, the arguments for this are a bit wonky, so I'll leave this up to your interpretation on if you think this is the case. For now, I think Sukuna, like Gojo, caps around somewhere around the supersonic lightning levels of speed, and that is for now at least the most consistent. Madara during the Warring States period would fight against the first Hokage Hashirama Senju. During their many fights, Madara would tame and overpower the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails in both the first and fourth data book is not only implied, but outright stated to have planetary levels of power, with just half of its entire existence. However, the Nine Tails that Madara was able to tame and overpower was the full Nine Tails prior to the one Minato had split and sealed into himself in Naruto. During Madara and Hashirama's many fights, Madara would finally fall and lose to Hashirama. Years later, Madara would attain the Rinnegan, give them to Nagato, and would then die. 17 years later, Madara would then be revived within the 4th Great Ninja War and not only beat the 5 Kage, but would overpower a KCM2 Naruto. This same KCM2 Naruto not only has full control over the Nine Tails that was stated to have earth-shattering power, but was able to speed blitz the 4th Raikage and KCM1, which I'll get into later. Madara, after being fully revived using Rinne Rebirth, would attain power above that of his Edo Tensei version and basically absorb Hashirama's power. Madara then, using the Limbo clones, would kinda just like one-shot every tailed beast and seal them within the Ghetto statue. Madara, after doing all that, would then absorb the 10 tails and attain Sage of 6 Paths, and would drop multiple multi-continental asteroids from geostationary orbit onto Naruto and Sasuke. I'm sure you get the point already, but like a base Madara from the Warring States period would most likely just like one-shot Sukuna, at least his Heian era version. But for those considered with speed, as I said prior, Madara would scale over a KCM2 Naruto who prior was able to speed blitz the Raikage. The Raikage in the data books was stated to be light speed, and would then get even faster after transforming into his V2 transformation. Madara also has his signature Light Fang, which is stated to bisect the enemy at the speed of light, and uses it against Naruto, but albeit fails. Light speed for the verse, unlike JJK, is pretty much just the bare minimum and consistent, as a 14-year-old Kakashi is able to cut the return stroke of lightning, which is literally like 1/3 the speed of light, in half, which is how the Raikiri was touted and earned its name as the lightning cutter. And even characters like Darui are stated to use light speed attacks such as the laser circuits, so light speed in Naruto is, like I said, pretty much the bare minimum even for mid-tiers like Darui. All in all, Sukuna would probably get speed blitzed in one shot. However, this is for a Heian era Sukuna. What if we were to put like Sukuna with Megumi's body and the 10 Shadows curse technique against Madara? How would that version of Sukuna stack up? During the Culling Games in chapter 212, Sukuna would turn himself into a cursed object and would force feed himself into Megumi's body. In doing that, he would attain all of Megumi's abilities such as the 10 Shadows curse technique and many, many more. Now, the 10 Shadows curse technique, generally speaking, is kind of fodder, except for the Shikigami King known as Maharaga. Maharaga's ability to not only negate any attack that uses curse energy using positive energy, but adapting to any and all phenomena over a period of time is kind of broken and insane, at least within JJK. Maharaga could potentially adapt to infinite phenomena via Perfect Sphere or via the Perfect Sphere, as a Perfect Sphere would hypothetically have infinite points of contact, which no current sphere does. However, Maharaga destroying Yorozu's Perfect Sphere is more likely due to the fact that he can just like negate cursed energy rather than him simply overpowering the attack and like overpowering infinite AP or whatnot. However, either interpretation is still a bit contentious, so I'll leave this up to your interpretation on if you think like Maharaga just has like infinite power or like something along those lines. Even with all this being said about Maharaga, he's still able to get one-shotted, as Sukuna did that very thing in Shibuya in their first fight before Maharaga was able to adapt to his fire arrow. Sukuna with Megumi's body is also unsusceptible to any mental infraction, and it could be instead swapped to and with Megumi's soul/body, which is what he did against Gojo when Gojo used a limited void, meaning things like standard genjutsu at least would be ineffective against Sukuna. However, things like the infinite Tsukuyomi and like Kodo Matsukami would still like one-shot Sukuna, as Sukuna doesn't have the Rinnegan. All in all, Madara would literally just like speed blitz in one shot and win, and this goes for either versions of the character. For those concerned with Sukuna's existence, erase your slash that in reality just targets the space you occupy, which is only 3D in nature, let me ask you this. What is Sukuna gonna do when Madara just like regenerates? Like, I'm not joking. Like, we see Sasuke do this very thing, and Madara just regenerates his body and survives. He also does the same thing against Night Guy as well. Also, Higuruma states that Sukuna either made a binding vow of some sort, or it has a cooldown, meaning Sukuna can't just like spam this ability, and even if he could, it wouldn't matter at all. All in all, like Naruto versus Gojo, you'd have to pull some insane mental gymnastics to assert that Sukuna beats Madara. All in all, Madara just like one-shots any version of Sukuna alongside the verse using a Limbo clone and just wins the fight. With that being said, however, please remember to subscribe as it would mean a lot. Also remember to check out Anime Express using my discount code of Tempest10 to get 10% off any order on me. But please remember to be and to stay safe. Make sure to have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Have a happy new year, and till next time.